The cold winds of Titan Prime blew across the landing field. Carrying dust and silence, the human colony waited in confusion, their eyes fixed on the massive silver ship that had just arrived. Its hull shimmered with alien symbols, royal and strange. They had been told an honored gift was coming from the alien empire of Thaloria, a sign of friendship, peace, and respect. Captain Hayes, the colony commander, stood with folded arms, his face tight with doubt. Since when do the Thalorians send gifts? He muttered to his crew, "They don't respect humans. They pity us." Another officer replied. The large pod door hissed open, steam spilling out like smoke from a wounded beast. From the fog stepped a tall figure. Trembling slightly, her skin shimmered faintly blue, her eyes glowing dim gold. She was dressed in royal fabric, but it looked old, heavy, uncomfortable. The humans whispered. Some gasped quietly. "She's huge," someone said. "That's the gift?" Another laughed under his breath. The alien Princess Vera, daughter of King Zorith, looked around in fear. She had been told she was being sent to make peace, but deep inside, she knew her father's tone when he said it. It wasn't peace he wanted. It was mockery. He had sent her away not to build bridges, but to break dignity. By order of the Thalorian Empire, the alien ship's commander announced, "Princess Vera is offered as a symbol of unity between our kinds." He bowed with false pride. The humans stood silent, their faces unreadable. Captain Hayes finally stepped forward, his voice cold. "This is the gift? A person? What are we supposed to do with her?" "She is yours now," the alien replied with a smirk. "Use her however humans use gifts." And with that, the ship sealed itself and took off, roaring into Titan's clouds. Leaving only Echo and Shane behind, the humans stared at Vera, unsure whether to pity her or hate her. She stood still, trying to hide her shaking hands, her golden eyes full of sadness. She could hear them whispering, "A joke, a trick. They made fun of us." Her heart sank lower with every word. Ethan Cole, a mechanic and engineer working near the dock, watched everything from behind a stack of equipment. He wasn't an officer or a soldier, just a man who fixed things, machines, not people. But when he saw Vera standing there, alone, surrounded by silent judgment, something inside him stirred. He stepped forward quietly, ignoring the commander's angry glare. "Hey," he said softly. "You're shaking. Are you all right?" Vera looked at him in confusion, her translator device crackling with static. I am fine," she managed to say. Though her voice trembled, her alien accent was heavy, and the translator distorted her tone. But Ethan understood enough. The commander barked, "Cole, stay back. She could be dangerous." Ethan didn't listen. "She's scared, not dangerous," he replied. He looked up at the officers. "What's the plan?" "We can't just leave her standing here," the commander shrugged. "You seem to care so much, Cole. She's your problem now." Laughter spread among the soldiers. Sharp and cruel, Vera lowered her head, her cheeks glowing faintly blue with shame. Ethan turned toward her and smiled kindly. "Come on. Let's get you somewhere warm." She hesitated, then nodded slowly, her heavy steps echoing in the cold air. Inside his small workshop, machines hummed softly, lights flickering with warmth. Ethan guided her to a chair, handing her a thermal blanket. "It's not a palace," he said with a chuckle. "But it's safe." Vera looked around. Surprised by the simple kindness, she whispered, "You are not laughing at me?" Ethan shook his head. "No, I don't laugh at pain." Her eyes widened, as if those words were something she had never heard before. Back in Thaloria, people had laughed at her size, her clumsy steps, her soft voice. Even her own father, the mighty king, called her a mistake with a crown. But this human, this simple engineer, spoke to her as if she mattered. While she rested, Ethan examined her translator device, which was cracked and sparking. He connected it to his console, trying to fix the circuits. Suddenly, a message played in static-filled Thalorian speech. It was her father's voice, deep and cruel. "Let the humans see what shame looks like." Ethan froze, his heart burning with anger. He looked over at Vera, who was gently touching one of his small drones, smiling softly. He couldn't tell her the truth. It would crush her. He decided to keep it a secret. At least for now. Outside, the colony still gossiped. Some mocked Ethan for bringing the alien joke into his home. Others warned him to stay away, saying she could be dangerous. But Ethan didn't care. He had seen something different in her eyes. Sadness. Yes, but also strength. A quiet kind of light that refused to die. Late that night, as Ethan worked on repairs, he heard a soft hum behind him. He turned around to see Vera sleeping peacefully, her skin glowing faintly with blue light. One of his broken drones, lying nearby, suddenly flickered back to life, its circuits glowing the same blue as her aura. Ethan stared, his mind racing. Did she just do that? He whispered. He looked at the glowing drone, then at the sleeping princess, and for the first time, he realized maybe the gift wasn't an insult after all. Maybe it was destiny in disguise. The next morning on Titan Prime was quiet. The metal sky tinted pale orange by the planet's thick atmosphere. Ethan woke up to the faint sound of humming, not from his machines, but from something soft and alive. He turned his head and saw Vera sitting beside one of his old drones, her hand glowing faintly blue as the machine slowly floated in the air. She looked peaceful, her eyes calm, her voice gentle as she whispered to the drone like it was a friend. Ethan watched in silent wonder. He had repaired machines all his life, but he had never seen energy like this. It wasn't electricity or plasma. It was something alive, something that felt. When Vera noticed him watching, she gasped and pulled her hand away, and the drone fell to the floor with a soft thud. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, her golden eyes wide with fear. "I didn't mean to break it." Ethan smiled and shook his head. "You didn't break it. You fixed it." She blinked in surprise. "Fixed it?" He nodded. "That drone's been dead for years. You just brought it back." Her mouth opened slightly, her voice barely a whisper. "I did?" Ethan crouched beside her. "Yeah, I don't know how, but you've got some kind of power." "Vera." She lowered her gaze, her voice trembling. "Power?" "No. My father said I have none. He said I'm useless." Ethan frowned. "Well, your father's wrong. For a moment." Silence filled the workshop, the hum of energy lingering in the air like music. Later that day, Vera helped him organize tools and parts. She was clumsy, often dropping things, and each time she muttered a quiet apology, Ethan laughed kindly. "Relax. This place has seen worse than a few dropped wrenches." Vera smiled a little, the corners of her lips trembling, unused to laughter that wasn't cruel. As they worked together, Ethan noticed how she watched everything with childlike curiosity. Every spark, every light, every movement of his robotic arms fascinated her. It was as if the world was new to her. And in a way, it was. Back on Thaloria, she had been locked away in golden halls. A secret the royal court tried to forget. That night, after dinner, Ethan returned to the console where her translator chip was still connected. He wanted to understand how it worked. But the half-repaired device suddenly flickered. Static filled the screen. And then came the same cruel voice from before. "King Zorath, let them see what shame looks like. Let the humans laugh as we did." Ethan's stomach twisted with anger. He clenched his fist, glaring at the message, then quickly shut it off. He didn't want Vera to hear those words. Not after seeing how fragile her smile was. She deserved peace, not more pain. He turned around and saw her sitting quietly by the workbench, watching the stars through the small window. Her eyes reflected the distant glow of space, and she whispered softly, "The stars look different here." Ethan walked closer. "Yeah, I guess they do. On my planet," she said, "we can't see stars from the royal dome. The sky is full of light and noise." But empty inside, Ethan sat beside her, nodding slowly. "Sometimes quiet places hold more truth than loud ones." She looked at him with curiosity. "You speak strange, human engineer," he chuckled. "Maybe. But it's honest," she smiled faintly. "Honest is good." As the days passed, the colony continued whispering. People avoided Ethan's workshop, calling it the alien nest, but Ethan didn't care. He was fascinated by Vera's gentle power and the mystery around her. He started running small tests, scanning energy traces left behind when she touched objects. The readings didn't match any known technology. Her body emitted bioelectric pulses that could repair and even awaken machines. It was as if her energy carried emotion, life that connected with other life. One evening, Ethan was welding a damaged reactor coil when sparks flew toward Vera. She instinctively raised her hand, and a transparent blue field formed around them. Blocking the sparks, Ethan froze, eyes wide. "You shielded us." She looked just as shocked, her voice shaking. "I didn't mean to." "It just happened," he smiled. "You just saved me." Again, she frowned, confused. "Why are you not afraid of me, human?" Ethan's voice softened. "Because you're not something to fear, Vera. You're something to understand." Her eyes glimmered. And for the first time since arriving, she laughed, a soft, warm sound that filled the cold workshop. Ethan couldn't help but laugh too, for a few moments. The alien princess and the lonely mechanic forgot about war. Shame and pain. They were just two souls learning to trust. But peace on Titan Prime never lasted long. That night, a signal flashed on Ethan's monitor, a coded transmission from deep space. He opened it and saw a royal emblem, Valorious crest. The message was short but heavy. Royal fleet en route. Arrival in 72 hours. Purpose. Inspection of the offering. Ethan's blood ran cold. He turned off the screen quickly, his heart pounding. If the Thalorian fleet was coming, it meant danger. They wouldn't travel across galaxies just to check on a joke. They wanted something else. He glanced at Vera, who was asleep again, her soft glow lighting the room. He whispered to himself, "They're coming for her." He didn't know why, but he could feel it. She wasn't safe anymore. And somehow, deep inside, he knew he would protect her, no matter what it cost. Outside, Titan Prime's night stretched endlessly. Stars flickered like cold fire. And far beyond them, engines burned in the dark. The royal fleet of Thaloria was already moving, and soon, the gift that was meant as an insult would become the galaxy's most dangerous secret. Titan Prime's night never truly ended. The skies were always dim, heavy with clouds of gas and metal dust. Inside the small workshop, Ethan sat at his console, staring at the flickering message from the Thalorian fleet. They were coming, and they weren't coming in peace. He had read enough alien code to understand the tone. It wasn't an inspection. It was a retrieval. He turned to look at Vera, who was still asleep in the corner. Wrapped in a thermal blanket, her breathing was calm, her skin glowing faintly blue, lighting up the dark room like a lantern of life. She looked peaceful, but Ethan knew that peace was an illusion. Somewhere out there, ships filled with soldiers and weapons were preparing to take her back. He whispered to himself, "You're not going anywhere." Then he began to work, his fingers flying across screens and cables. If the Thalorians were coming, he would make sure Titan Prime was ready when morning came. Vera woke up to the sound of tools clanging. Ethan was building something, tall metal frames, glowing panels, energy coils spinning with faint blue light. "What are you doing?" she asked, rubbing her eyes. "Preparing," he replied. "Just in case your father decides to visit." Her expression fell. He is coming." Ethan nodded slowly. "His ships are on their way." Vera's hands shook. "He will destroy this place. He doesn't like to lose face." Ethan looked at her with steady eyes. "Then we won't let him win." She blinked, surprised. "You would fight for me?" He smiled. "You think I'm the kind of guy who lets bullies have their way?" Her lips curved into a faint smile, a spark of hope flickering where fear once lived. As the day passed, Ethan studied her energy readings again. The data was impossible. Her body was producing energy levels that could power an entire city. And yet, she wasn't even aware of it. He asked her to touch a deactivated battery cell, and instantly it began to recharge, glowing blue from within. "See? You can fix what's broken just by being near it," he said. Amazed, Vera looked at the glowing cell, her voice soft. "Maybe that is all I am good for, fixing what others break." Ethan shook his head. "No, Vera, you create, you bring life." He connected one of his scanners to her readings. The pattern looked like a heartbeat. Not a machine code, alive, emotional, and pure. That's when Ethan understood something deeper. Her power wasn't just energy, it was connection. She could link with any technology, feel its memory, sense its purpose, and make it whole again. But that discovery came with a dark thought. If he could see this from his small lab, then the Thalorian Empire already knew. That's why they sent her away, not only as a joke, but to test her power far from their own world. And now, they were coming back to claim what they had lost. As the sunless sky dimmed once more, alarms began to blink red across the colony. Captain Hayes' voice echoed through the intercom. "All engineers report." Incoming vessels detected. Ethan's stomach tightened. He rushed to the window, and in the distance, 3 glowing points appeared. Thalorian warships. They looked like floating fortresses, huge and menacing, cutting through the clouds like monsters made of steel. Vera stood beside him, trembling. Her eyes reflected the approaching ships, and memories flashed before her. Her father's throne, his cruel laughter, his words. "You are not fit to wear my name," she whispered to herself. "He won't stop until I'm gone." Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then he'll have to go through me first." They worked through the night. Ethan modified the colony's shield generators, connecting them to his new power system. He asked Vera to channel her energy into it, and as she did, blue light surged through the cables like rivers of life. The entire base flickered, the shields glowing brighter than ever before. It was working. Her power was keeping them alive. But using that energy was draining her fast. Sweat rolled down her face, her hands shaking as the light around her dimmed. Ethan caught her before she fell. "Easy, Vera. That's enough for now." She looked up weakly. "I can do more." He shook his head. "No. You've done enough." He laid her gently on a cot, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You're the reason we even have a chance." Suddenly, a transmission came through. A deep, commanding voice filled the speakers. "This is Admiral Karth of the Thalorian Royal Fleet. Human colony of Titan Prime. You are in possession of royal property. Surrender the princess immediately." Ethan clenched his jaw. "She's not property," the voice replied coldly. "Refusal will be seen as an act of war." The communication ended with a hiss. Outside, the sky lit up with distant fire. The warships were lowering their weapons. Ethan turned to Vera, who was now sitting up, her glow faint but steady. "They're going to destroy everything," she said softly. "Not if we stand together," he replied. Her eyes filled with tears. You don't understand, Ethan. My power is not just light. It's alive if I lose control. I could hurt everyone. Ethan took her hand gently. Then we'll control it. Together, the ground trembled as the first blast hit the colony shields. Blue light rippled across the sky, holding firm but flickering under the heavy fire. Ethan rushed to the control panel, shouting over the noise. Vera, now! She stood up, closing her eyes, her body glowing brighter and brighter. Energy surged from her into the shields, spreading like wings across the colony. For a moment, everything went still. Then, the enemy's next blast hit the shield and scattered harmlessly into light. The humans cheered, the base alive with hope again. But Ethan saw Vera collapse, her glow fading fast. He ran to her side. Catching her before she hit the floor, her voice was faint. Did it work? He smiled through his tears. Yeah, you did it. You saved us. She smiled weakly. Then maybe I'm not a joke anymore. Her eyes closed. Her body going still as the hum around her faded. Ethan held her close, whispering, You're not a joke, Vera. You're a miracle. Outside, the Thalorian fleet regrouped, their lights flashing like angry eyes in the dark. And as Ethan looked up at the sky, he knew this battle was far from over, but for the first time, humanity had something new, a reason to fight, and a heart that shone brighter than any star. The night sky above Titan Prime burned with light and fear. The Thalorian warships hovered like dark clouds, their weapons glowing red, ready to destroy. Inside the human colony, alarms screamed through every corridor. People ran for cover, soldiers prepared for battle. And in the center of it all, Ethan Cole stood beside the alien princess who had already saved them once. Vera lay weak on the cot, her skin pale blue and her glow dim. Her eyes fluttered open as she heard the thunder outside. Ethan's voice broke through the noise. Calm but urgent. They're coming back, Vera. We have to move. She tried to stand but stumbled. Ethan caught her before she fell. I don't have strength, she whispered. My power is fading. Ethan shook his head. You've got more strength than any of us. He helped her to her feet and guided her toward the shield control room. Outside, explosions flashed across the colony dome. Shaking the ground beneath them, Captain Hayes and the soldiers were preparing the outer defenses. When he saw Ethan leading Vera, he scowled. This is your fault. Cole, Hayes shouted. You brought her here. Now the whole colony's in danger? Ethan glared back. She's the only reason we're still alive. The captain laughed bitterly. That monster? She's a weapon, not a savior. Vera flinched at his words, lowering her eyes, but Ethan stepped in front of her. She's not a weapon, she's a person, he said firmly. Hayes pointed at the screen, showing the approaching ships. Then tell your person to stop this war. Ethan's voice softened. Maybe she can. He turned to Vera. Can you connect to their ships, maybe stop their systems? She hesitated, fear filling her eyes. If I try and fail, I could burn everything. Ethan smiled gently. Then let's fail together. They moved into the control room. Connecting her energy to the shield core, Vera placed her glowing hands on the interface. Blue light spreading through the cables, like veins of lightning. Her body trembled as she reached out with her mind. She could feel the Thalorian ships, cold, hateful, alive in their own mechanical way. And then, among the signals, she heard a voice. Deep, cruel, familiar. Vera, it said, echoing inside her head. My broken child. Are you still pretending to be useful? Her father's voice, cold as steel, she gasped. Pain flashing across her face. He's here, she whispered. He's in my mind. Ethan grabbed her shoulders. Fight it, Vera. He doesn't control you anymore. But the voice grew louder. You are nothing without my name. Come home. or I will erase the humans who shelter you." Vera's heart pounded, her glow flickering wildly. "I won't go back," she whispered, her voice shaking but strong. "Not again." Energy surged around her, the machines vibrating with her heartbeat. Ethan shielded his eyes as light filled the room. Through sheer will, she broke the connection to her father's command, and the Thalorian fleet above suddenly flickered, their systems glitching for a moment. But the fleet wasn't done. They began firing again, red beams striking the human shields, shaking the colony like an earthquake. Vera cried out. "I can't hold them forever." Ethan moved beside her, adjusting the power flow. "Then we hold as long as it takes." Outside, the human soldiers cheered as the shields held against another blast. For a moment, it felt like hope, but hope was fragile. A massive explosion hit the East Dome. The shield cracked like glass, and part of the colony collapsed in fire. People screamed, running for shelter. Ethan's heart sank. "We're losing power." He looked at Vera, who was still glowing, still trying. "Can you give more?" Tears rolled down her cheeks. "If I do, I might not survive." He took her hand gently. "Then you'll live forever in every life you save." Her eyes met his, glowing brighter than ever before. "Then let me be more than my father's shame," she whispered. She closed her eyes and poured everything she had into the shield core. The blue light expanded, roaring through the colony like a storm of stars. Every broken system came to life. Drones, defense turrets, even old machines that had been dead for years. They all awakened, moving in harmony as if Vera's soul was inside them. Outside, the Thalorian fleet opened fire once more. But this time, the energy met an even stronger shield, alive, pulsating, unbreakable. Vera's energy reached into the sky, reflecting the red beams and sending them back toward the warships. The first ship exploded in a wave of blue fire, lighting up the darkness. The second tried to retreat, but the same energy wrapped around it, like a serpent, and tore it apart. The humans on the ground watched in awe, as the alien princess they once mocked became their protector. Captain Hayes stared at the sky, speechless. Ethan stood behind Vera, his heart pounding with pride and fear. Her body was shaking, the light around her flickering rapidly. He could see she was reaching her limit. "Vera, stop, you'll die," he shouted. But she didn't stop, her voice breaking through the roar of energy. "If I stop, they'll kill you all." The last ship tried to flee, engines roaring. But Vera raised her glowing hands and whispered something in her native tongue. A wave of light burst from her like a sunrise. It struck the ship, and in a final flash, the Thalorian fleet was gone. Silence fell over Titan Prime. The fires dimmed, the shields flickered, and the colony stood, half broken but alive. Ethan ran to Vera, who was on her knees, her glow fading fast. He caught her before she fell, his voice breaking. "Vera, stay with me. You did it." She smiled faintly, her voice barely a whisper. "Then maybe I was never unwanted after all." Her hand touched his cheek gently, then fell still. Ethan held her in his arms, tears rolling down his face. Outside, the humans cheered, but he couldn't hear them. All he could hear was her last breath. Soft and peaceful, he whispered. "You weren't unwanted, Vera. You were everything we needed, above them." The stars shone brighter through the smoke, and for the first time in history, Titan Prime stood free, not because of war, but because of one alien heart that believed she could be more. The smoke over Titan Prime faded slowly. The sky turned soft gray as dawn light touched the broken colony. Ashes drifted through the air like snow, and the silence that followed was heavier than any explosion. The Thalorian fleet was gone. The battle was over. But the cost of victory still burned in every heart. Ethan Cole sat beside the shield core, his hands shaking. In his arms lay Princess Vera, still and silent. Her blue glow dim like the last spark of a dying star. Her body was cold, but her face was peaceful. He brushed a lock of silver-blue hair from her cheek, whispering, "You saved us, Vera," around him. Soldiers and engineers moved through the ruins, clearing debris, searching for survivors. Everywhere they looked, the machines were still humming softly, powered by the echo of her energy. Captain Hayes approached slowly. His uniform torn and covered in dust, he stopped a few steps away, guilt heavy in his eyes. "She did this?" he asked quietly. Ethan nodded. "She protected everyone, even after you called her a monster." Hayes looked at the glowing machines, his voice low. "Yes, I was wrong." Ethan didn't answer. He just stared at the horizon, where the warships had vanished. A few hours later, the colony received a transmission, not from Earth, but from deep space. It was from the Thalorian court. King Zoreth himself. His face appeared on the screen, proud and cruel as ever. "So the humans survived," he said coldly. "Tell me, what remains of my daughter?" Ethan stood in front of the screen, his voice sharp. "She's gone, and you're the reason why." The king smirked. "Gone? She was never meant to last. She was a joke. A reminder that even perfection can fail." Ethan clenched his fists, anger burning in his chest. "She was more human than you'll ever be," he said. The king's eyes narrowed, but Ethan continued. "She gave her life for people who mocked her, who feared her. She became what your empire never could, something pure, something good." For a moment, the king said nothing. Then he turned his head slightly, his voice quieter. "Her power is gone then?" Ethan looked at the core, still glowing faintly. "Her power isn't gone," he said. "It lives here now, in everything she touched." The king sneered. "Then let it rot with your world and cut the transmission." Ethan stared at the blank screen, whispering, "It won't rot. It will grow." Days turned into weeks, and Titan Prime slowly rebuilt itself. The colonists worked together like never before. The machines she awakened helped rebuild homes, powered farms, repaired generators. People began to speak her name with respect. They called her the princess who saved humanity. Children played with drones that carried her symbol, a blue star within a circle. Even Captain Hayes ordered a memorial built at the center of the colony. At the base of the statue were carved the words, "She was sent as a joke, but she became our light." Ethan visited the memorial every evening. He would sit beside the statue and talk softly, as if she could still hear him. "I fixed the shield grid today," he would say. "Your energy's still in there, keeping us safe." Sometimes he would smile faintly. "You'd laugh if you saw the kids." They built a robot and named it Vera too. And though there was no answer, he always felt the faintest warmth in the air, a soft hum, like her heartbeat still lived in the machines around him. One night, months later, Ethan was alone in his workshop, the same one where she had first made a broken drone come alive. He sat at his desk, staring at a small crystal shard that had fallen from her armor the day she died. It pulsed with a faint blue light. He touched it gently, whispering, "I miss you." The crystal glowed brighter for a second, and a hologram flickered into life. It was Vera, her image faint but smiling. "Ethan," her voice said softly, "if you're seeing this, it means I'm gone. But don't be sad." He froze, tears filling his eyes. "You once told me I could fix what others break," her voice continued. "But you were wrong. You fixed me. You taught me what it means to be seen." The hologram flickered. "I hope one day our worlds will understand each other, not through power, but through kindness." Her image smiled one last time. "Goodbye, human engineer," and then it faded, leaving only the glow of the crystal behind. Ethan sat in silence. The sound of the machines humming softly around him, he whispered, "Goodbye, Princess." Then he placed the crystal into the heart of the shield generator. As it connected, a wave of blue light spread across the colony. Every machine lit up with soft warmth. Every light pulsed in rhythm like a heartbeat. And for a moment, everyone on Titan Prime looked up, feeling something they couldn't explain. Peace. Years later, stories about the alien princess spread across human space. Some said she was a myth. Others called her a hero. But those who lived on Titan Prime knew the truth. They remembered her laughter, her courage, her sacrifice. They called her Vera of the Blue Light, the princess the galaxy forgot, but humanity never would. And in the quiet nights of Titan Prime, when the sky shimmered with distant stars, if you listened closely, you could still hear the faint hum of her energy in the air, a soft, living reminder that even those cast away by the universe can become its brightest stars. Because sometimes the greatest legends don't begin with glory or pride. They begin with pain, kindness, and one broken heart that refused to stay forgotten.